guys, back again, knocking out another Patreon request. Another Patreon request from, this time coming from one of my Gamma level tier members. Gamma level, guys, is the create a list / favorite list. At this list, patrons can request 2 top lists. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a top, your favorite. Doesn't matter. You can create 2 of them, and I will do them for you. And this comes from Mr.Spartan, another one of my patrons, newest patron. And Mr. Spartan wanted to know what are some of my favorite beat 'em up video games. I am a huge fan of the beat 'em up style of video games. Beat 'em ups are cool because it's 2D, it's flat platform, and you go from level to level. You beat up countless people, you fight the boss, you move on to the next level, and it kind of gone from that to like the hack and slash, but nothing beats a classic beat 'em up game. And some of them have still been around to today, and some of them are not. But the ones that lasted continue to move on and have evolved and made better. But for me, when he says favorites, that means you didn't give me a number, so I went with 10 for you guys. So sit back, relax, let's get this started, guys, and let's check out what are some of my favorite beat 'em up games. And I go way back with them. I go way back. I'm probably a lot older than most of my viewers think I am. So I go a ways back. But we're going to kick it off with number 1. And number 1 on that list comes from probably one of the greatest beat 'em up franchises in video game history. And we're going to go with Streets of Rage, or Bare Knuckle in Japan. Streets of Rage, which one? We're going with 2. Yes, 2 is my favorite out of the entire franchise. 4 was good, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed 4. They came back strong with 4. But nothing beats 2. 2 had the greatest blend of what you were looking for. Great characters, great levels, and that freaking music alone was just perfect. Streets of Rage 2 is my number 1. Number 2 on the list, we go with the Fab Foursome, the Brothers, the Turtles, TMNT, the arcade game. Man, oh man. The amount of quarters I pumped into this system was crazy. Whenever we went to the arcade here in New York, especially the famous place of Nathan's, same name of the famous hot dog brand. They had a huge arcade in the back of the restaurant. We used to go back there and just look for that game, and me and my cousins, we'd play it. Most of the time, they always wanted me to play Leonardo. I wanted to be Mikey. Mikey was my favorite, but TMNT arcade game was great. I loved it, and then they adapted it to the systems. Didn't feel too well, the older systems, but later on they got better. But they kept it going with these beat 'em ups for the Turtles, and it worked. And that leads me to number 3, because number 3 on that list is Turtles in Time. Love that game. This was another game I pumped so many quarters into, so much time just to play the game. And again, it was just so much fun back then to play arcades. I miss arcades, guys. I missed them so much. I love the platform systems that we got now, but it was nothing like going to the arcade, your parents giving you a baggie of quarters, and you playing with other kids and things like that. I missed that. And at first I used to say, well, maybe I need to go to Japan because that's where the only arcades. Well, they're no longer there now. sucks. But yeah, Turtles in Time was another one that I loved. It was great. I think they consider that TMNT 4, the fourth one. But yeah, they all were good. I mean, there was one for the Sega Genesis called the Hyperstone Heights. They had another. There were just so many great turtle games. And you can play them for I think the PS4 and Xbox, the previous systems. They have like a whole collection of all the turtle games, and I have it too. And you can play that. It's so much fun. Good times, man. Good times. Number 4, Capcom's Final Fight. Capcom brought us goodness with the beat 'em up, with this beat 'em up. It was this beat 'em up that made Sega say, you know what, we want to do that. And that's how we got Streets of Rage, because they wanted to compete with Final Fight. Final Fight was great. It is in the same universe as just Street Fighter in general. It took place in a city called Metro City. And of course you play with 3 characters. In the first game, you play with Guy, who is a ninja, Cody, and of course the mayor of Metro City, Hagar, who is also a former wrestler. And the Mad Gear gang stole his daughter, Cody's girlfriend, and it's up to you guys to go out throughout the city and track down the Mad Gear gang and bring back Hagar's daughter. Good fun. They did 2 more games, and it was fun. They were fun too. And a lot of those characters from that game, from that franchise, were adapted into the Street Fighter games. Birdie, Sodom, Rolento, Guy, Cody, and I believe Hagar finally made. Did Hagar ever? I don't think Hagar came into Street Fighter, but he was in other fighting games. So yeah, good times. Next on the list, X-Men. Yeah. Did you not think I was not gonna have this on the list? You bugging. X-Men. The X-Men game for I think it was Acclaim had the license. This game was great because the lineup was the exact lineup from the 1989 pilot episode of X-Men. You know, X-Men. This is our day. Yeah, that. So you had Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Dazzler, Colossus, Storm, Cyclops, and that was it. And you would see Kitty in there, but she was not in the. You can't play with her. And you go through every level fighting different members of the evil mutants. You go to the Savage Land. You would go to Asteroid M. You know, I believe the first boss was the Blob, and if I remember correctly, it was the Blob, and he would say nothing moves the Blob, and if you knock him down, he falls on the ground. You get to beat him up. Each character had a special could use their mutant powers. Wolverine's was really stupid. He just slashed real fast. Colossus was kind of dumb too, because he would just go and he would just make this big wave of energy that I don't know where that comes from, because doesn't have that. Nightcrawler's is probably the best because he could just pour it around the screen. Dazzler's was good, but you fought so many characters. I mean, you fought the Wendigo, you fought Pyro, you fought the Sentinels. You know, it was great. It was so much fun playing that game, and you could play that now too. It's a great game. Yes, it was. It was a great game. So yeah. Number 6, The Simpsons. Yeah. Back in the days, I was a huge Simpson fan. I still love The Simpsons, but I stopped watching them religiously like I used to. I think I stopped after the early 90s or late 90s. I can't tell you what happened in like season 30 or season 29. You know, I couldn't tell you. But I still love The Simpsons. And back then, when they were at their highest, they made I think it was Acclaim again. I could be wrong. Correct me on that. They pumped out a Simpsons beat 'em up game. It was fun. It was so much fun. You play with the family, and Maggie gets kidnapped. And I believe it was it Smithers? I think it was Smithers that kidnaps her. I forget why. I forget why. I forget what was the reason why he kidnapped Maggie. But yes, and you play with Homer, you play with Bart, Marge or Lisa. Marge carried a vacuum cleaner. You hit people with a vacuum cleaner. Homer just used his fists. Bart used a skateboard, and I forgot what Lisa uses, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I remember pumping quarters into this game like it was no tomorrow. And every time I got close to beating, and I would ask my dad, "Can I get more? Can I get like $5 worth of quarters? Just $5 cool." And sometimes he'd give it to me, and sometimes he's not. But over time, it was just so much fun. I miss those days, man. I really do. I really, really do. But yeah, the Simpsons game was fun. Number 7, the Punisher beat 'em up game. Yeah, Punisher had a couple of beat 'em ups for the old Nintendo, the Game Boy, but most of those were first-person shooters. But in the arcade, Capcom pumped out a Punisher beat 'em up game. It is now a part of the Capcom collection, Marvel collection, for the systems now. I think they pulled it out. Basically, in this game, you play as Frank, or you could play as Nick Fury. Excuse me, Nick Fury. And again, you're battling the Kingpin in this, and you go through different levels, and you face different people. I remember one of the villains you would face. You face the Reavers in this. The cybernetic people that you saw in like X-Men. Yeah, you fight them in that. And of course the boss is Kingpin, and he's huge as fuck. Like, but it was fun. It was a fun game. Capcom made it, and I think they ported it to the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. But it was nothing like playing it on the playing it in an arcade. It was fun. And I think the port that is in the collection that I talked about is the arcade version. So yes, the Punisher game is fun. Number 8, Spider-Man. Yeah. Now Spider-Man has a lot of beat 'em up games that were a part of, ports like, the Maximum Carnage, Separation Anxiety. All those are good. Those are video game adaptations of real storylines that happen in Spider-Man or Venom comics. But the one I'm talking about is the Spider-Man arcade game that Sega put out, and it was a really cool game. Again, you're fighting Spider-Man. You're playing with Spider-Man, and other players can play with him. You could either play with Spider-Man, you could play with Hawkeye, you can play with Black Cat, and the last one I always scratch my head, but you can play with Namor, the Submariner. And he was old school look when he just had the Speedos on, the green Speedos in his. So yeah, you fought all of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, and it was about, I think it was about Spider-Man and his allies trying to get back a jewel, a mystical artifact that was first Kingpin stole it, then later on Dr. Doom stole it. So it was really interesting. It was one of those games that never got ported. If I remember correctly, it never got ported to any system, and it sucked. But it was a fun game. I loved it. You could find it on YouTube, like video game gameplay of it, but it was fun. And the next one, number 9 on the list, I do consider this a beat 'em up, and not just a side scroll, game, because it was a beat 'em up. Personally, to me, and it is categorized that. Another Capcom game, and it's a Capcom game I wish Capcom brought back a new addition to the franchise. And what franchise is that? Henshin a Go-Go, baby. Beautiful Joe. Yes, Beautiful Joe. I remember when my brother got rented this game at a time when you could rent games from like Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, all these other. Remember all those guys? I'm aging myself, but yeah, he had rented the game, and later on he got it, and I loved it. I thought it was cool. It was a cool game. I was like, who is this? This is cool. He was just a guy named Joe. He'd take his girl out, and the next and he gets this V watch, and he could turn into like this mixture of it looked like a little bit. Beautiful Joe does look a little bit like Mega Man, or looks like he could belong in a Mega Man game. But it was so cool, and Capcom put out a couple of games, and there was even an anime based on it as well. Beautiful Joe was at a high, and then even when he started, and then later on, I think once he started making appearances in like the Capcom versus games, his popularity started to die out. But I loved those games, I really did, and I was wondering when I was putting this list, I was like, Beautiful Joe, did I consider a beat 'em up? And I looked at, and they classified it as a beat 'em up, so it's on the list. It is one of my favorites. Henshin a Go-Go, baby. Yeah. And last but not least, number 10. This one takes me back because it was considered truly the first beat 'em up game that I ever played as a kid. And what is that? Double Dragon. Yeah. Double Dragon was always fun. Hard at times, but fun. I think I did beat the game, but it took forever for me to beat. I think I had to have some cousins help me with it. Of course, you play with the twins, Billy and Jimmy Lee, and you're trying to save your girlfriend. It's kind of brutal because the bad guys come, they take your girl, they literally punch her. Like, I'm not, they walk up, boom, and they grab her and they walk away. It is just the most craziest thing. And to see that Double Dragon has still lasted the test of time, that says a lot. They went from all this kind of the systems. They even teamed up with the Battletoads, which was also a hard as fuck beat 'em up game. If I made maybe a top 15, yeah, that would have been on there. But I love Double Dragon. I will always love it. It will always be a part of my childhood. And I had to put a classic on here, like another classic, not just arcade beat 'em ups, but a classic. And Double Dragon. Well, Double Dragon came on arcade too, but it's a classic. And yeah, I love it. Well, guys, there you go. Mr. Spartan, I did it. There you go. I'm looking forward to doing your other one. I see your other list, your other top list. That one's going to be fun too. Not going to spoil it for everybody, but I thank you for your patronage. Thank you for joining the Patreon, Mr. Spartan. I look forward to seeing what's next for you, Mr. Spartan. And outside of that, guys, you guys take care, and I will see you guys next week for some more Patreon requests. I'll try to do these on a certain day. So Patreon requests probably will always try to come out Saturdays or during the weekend. I'll basically. But outside of that, guys, hope you guys enjoy. Deuces.